Okay, my school is a school of second choice. People don't buy houses in the neighborhood so they can get on the catchment area. Uh, for the most part, parents and students aren't there because they want to be there. They're there because they feel they have to be there. Having said that, we have a wonderful group of diverse learners, very interesting, sweet kids from kindergarten all the way to grade 12 who have a range of learning challenges and anxieties and barriers to their growth. But the one thing they all have in common in this diverse group is they walk in the door and the first thing they say to me is, success for me is not an option. They're kind of like the scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz, and you can almost hear them singing when they walk around the halls. I could be a straight-A student, quite serious and prudent. High marks I would attain. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Not a class would I be bored in. Wouldn't go to Kenneth Gordon if I only had a brain. Now, the fact of the matter is, these are all bright kids, but they don't see themselves as bright. They don't see themselves as learners. We heard Sarah Gar's story earlier today. It was fantastic. I have a school full of Sarah Gars that struggle to find out what school means to them and what it should be done. And there's lots of expert advice you can get. And we read all about it. You read Carol Dweck, and she says, get away from a fixed mindset, get into a growth mindset. Or you read Paul Tuff, and he says, it's all about grit and resilience and perseverance. Or you read Carol Ann Tomlinson, and she'll say, just differentiate. But sometimes it's not really the experts that you need to listen to. I remember years ago, I was teaching back in the 1980s, before a lot of you were born. I was teaching at the University of Connecticut with William Perky, and he was the father of the invitational school movement. So they, inviting schools, and he wrote a couple of books, Self-Concept and School Achievement, and Inviting School Success. And he said a lot of memorable things. One of the things he always said was, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Now, that's evidenced by my singing. But he also was the sort of person who said, listen, what schools need to be before they do anything else is they have to be inviting places for kids to come. They have to be a place where children feel safe, where they feel they can take risks, where they feel that it doesn't matter whether they do poorly at something, they're not going to be judged on that. They're going to be encouraged, supported, and helped to do better the next time. So when I think about him, I think about us as educators, and I think about, we kind of operate all our schools on the principles of in loco parentis, and we use it to, kind of acting in the way of a kind and judicious parent. And we put that into our classroom management, into our field trip policy, and into even our discipline theories. But, I think maybe we have in loco parentis a bit backwards. What if we really did act like parents when we dealt with kids? What would that look like? What would it look like if we considered every child's achievement and progress to be of critical importance to us as educators? What if we recognized the fact that every child has a different path to success? What if we knew that the complexities of family structure meant that not every night was conducive to doing homework, and that's not the student's fault? What if we understood that it's probably not a good idea to start to rank our kids with stars and stickers and pep rallies and honor rolls that creates a culture of winners and losers within our building? What if we acted as educators the way we ask parents to act? That is, to check on homework, to see how kids are feeling, to look at what their day is going to look like, just to touch base with them all the time, to think about when we use assessment as an instructional tool, not as a judge of individual worth. What if we looked at in loco parentis in a real sense is not a legal construct. It's a method of philosophy of teaching and learning. And if we as schools and principals and teachers looked at ourselves as cheerleaders and coaches and advocates rather than as judge, jury, and executioner, what a different sort of school that might be. Now, I don't think that parents should be educating kids. I think that schools shouldn't try to be parents. But I do think that as schools and as educators, if we took our time and looked at the individual needs of each child and were committed to having success and a successful future for those children, just like a parent does, then In-Local Apprentice could be our ticket for a meaningful route to student success. Thank you very much.